Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Have a lot to talk about this evening. Sorry I was off Monday night. Unfortunately, let me make one adjustment here. There we go. Make sure the chat's up. Make sure the chat's rolling. Priorities. Canada Heavy Haul was the first here with Gin in the chat room. But the Phantom was first. If you want to get in the chat room, you can go over to youtube.com, search SHR Media. You'll see that we're live. You can click and jump in the chat. Simulcast this evening on KLRN with our good friends over there. Got a lot to talk about. Lot to talk about. I'm going to give you a fair warning, though. Have you ever had one of those days where, I talk a lot. I talk on the show. I talk to people all day. I'm a talker. Today's one of those days that the friggin' words coming out of my mouth just aren't the ones that I want to come out of my mouth. So just be warned. It's one of those weird days. It's definitely one of those weird days for me. First, I'm going to start off. I haven't got to use this graphic for a while, so we're going to use this graphic. Oh, there it is. We're going to start off in California, as BZ says, always spell it with the K. There's a lot to talk about in California. First things first. And before he says, I told you, BZ said this, as did others. Oh, wow. The chat room's filling up. Lovely. Ready men. Cheetah. Mike's in the chat. Thank you, Mike. But we talked about when the Pacific Palisades fire went down in that whole, what was it, a week where it was just horrendous down there. And it just leveled city blocks at a time. It was horrible. One of the things we said is, watch what happens with the rebuilding, because everybody saw what happened in Hawaii and that the government was stepping in, and the people weren't just allowed to replace their property and move on. No, there has to be all this new government involvement and oversight and new permits and stuff like that. Well, that building was built in 1961. So in order to, even though it was insured for that amount, you have to rebuild it to these standards, yada, 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 yada. Thank you, Phantom. I'm glad I'm here as well. So California now said, well, look, even though we absolutely get in the way of everything that happens in the state, we're not going to get in the way of the rebuilding process, except for the fact that we're absolutely going to get in the way of the building process. And now they want to turn around and they're passing SB 549, which aims to convert fire-ravaged parcels into affordable multi-family housing. So a lot of those communities were single dwelling houses, families that have owned it for years. It's not just rich people. Was it a upper class neighborhood? Absolutely. Hey, Ricky's in the chat room. Ricky, the Cosmic Bod, good evening. It was an upscale neighborhood, but a lot of those homes were generational homes. The people living there, Ordy's in the chat room. Ordy, I'll give you the honorary first. How's that? I love when everyone's calling first in the chat room. It makes me laugh. But yeah, so a lot of those homes were generational. The people that lived there were not going to be able to, would not be able to purchase those homes outright, but they were left to them. So when they got wiped out, it would make sense that they should just be allowed to rebuild where they are. But the state government says, no. I don't know if you've ever heard of socialism, but that's where we take wealth, generational or otherwise, and redistribute it evenly amongst other people. Let other people have a piece of the pie. You selfish bastards. How dare you enjoy what you and other family members busted their ass to earn and keep and maintain? And again, was there people in that area with money? Absolutely, but not everybody. And there was a large percentage of homes that were generational. So SB 549 passed the Senate. It's going to end up on Newsom's desk. He can assign it. Allocates $101 million to LA County to purchase and develop burned land. In other words, they're going to flash money in people's faces and kind of strong arm them. And what they did in Hawaii, and this wasn't talked about a lot, but they talked about, said, hey, look, for you to rebuild this, your insurance is only covering like 60%. You're still going to need X amount of dollars. You're probably not going to be able to keep up with that. Plus all the new permitting and construction fees and the new requirements for safe buildings, yada, yada, yada. It's going to be that much more. Or just hear me out. I can give you about half of what this is worth and tell you to get the fuck out. And then we're going to put what we want here, which is what they're doing. It's paid eminent domain. You make it extremely difficult for that person to rebuild, and then you put money in their face and say, well, you're not going to be able to rebuild that anyhow. Oh, by the way, you're still going to pay taxes on what it's worth if it were built. That's not going to go away. So you can either have this empty plot of land that you're paying taxes on that you can't afford to rebuild, or take this government check and get the fuck out of here so we can build what we want to build. The advocates are saying supports breaking wealthy neighborhood barriers, redistribution of wealth. Critics warn of local resistance and loss of character. Of course. Look, the idea of low-income housing in a socialist world sounds marvelous. Because really what they want is everyone who's not in charge to be living in low-income housing. Just see all the photos of Soviet era apartment buildings. That's what they want. They only like the rich people who give to them and certain rich people, and everything else, they want to spread that money out. They don't want you to have a safe, nice neighborhood. No, that keeps the houses too expensive for everybody to move into. And how dare you want that? Why would you dare want a nice neighborhood where everyone takes care of their property and the streets are relatively safe and it's friendly and quiet? Wouldn't you want this monstrosity of an apartment building instead? Doesn't that make you feel better? Well, fuck no. And it's horrific and horrible. And they're not going to force out the rich people. The rich people can afford it. They're not going to put it in the most upscale neighborhoods because they'll never allow it. They're going to put it into the middle class aspects of those cities and wipe it away. And then it'll be low income housing. What does low income housing translate into? Government paid housing, right? That's the $1,500 a month apartment where the government pays $1,300 a month and you pay $200 a month. That's what it comes down to. And that's how you destroy nice cities. And that's not to say that there isn't time and place, but I'll tell you right now, if 1 million of these self-deported illegals are gone and whatever get added up, housing's going to be much more affordable, especially in states like California, where the illegals take up a lot of the population. It is absolutely crazy to me that people aren't losing their mind over this. And I'm sure the local residents do. I'm sure they're absolutely pissed off, and I don't blame them. But the other ones who won't be affected by this because they live in the upscale neighborhoods. Oh, Gavin, look at, this is just what we want. We want to help the poor people. I've said it before and I've said it again. Low-income housing does not help poor people. Okay? Low-income housing does one of two things. It either motivates people to get the hell out and they don't want to be poor anymore. And that's a small percentage, but they're there. Or it makes people so comfortable with their situation that they never want to improve it. They want to keep relying on government for anything. Taxpayers can pay the bill. It's government money. That's how they look at it. And they just complete that cycle over and over and pass it down generationally. I've told the story before of how I've seen it numerous times. I worked in projects, it's what we call them in Boston, low-income housing, for years, working law enforcement. It's self-perpetuating, and that's what they want. So that's one of the what the fuck out of California. I got more, but I'm going to read some comments really quick. This is from Ordnance Packer. Ordy says, every low-income housing project I've ever seen in California changed hands with a few developers until everyone forgot about it being low-income housing and turned into expensive townhomes. That is a very big possibility, especially in that neighborhood. And Canada Heavy Haul, I have an employee that was born and raised in East Berlin. I was shocked at the stories he told me. Way worse than we learned in school. I have very much heard the same thing. Canada Heavy Haul and Mission Ready Men. This is a good one. Dems hate everyone. And I have to agree with that. Mike Pasquale brings up rent control. Mike, I don't know if I would have enough time with the 50 minutes less in the show to go into rent control, other than the fact that it's absolute garbage. Speaking of garbage, Gavin Newsom, he wants to redistrict California. Have you heard about this? Man, when I tell you that he's threatening to discard California's voter-approved independent redistricting system in order to redraw congressional seats, potentially flipping more seats to Democrats. That's Newsom's next big thing. Now, as we talk about dear Newsom, let me bring him up there. There he is. As we talk about this son of a bitch right here, there's a couple things you have to keep in mind with him. Okay. He's trying to run for president. We all know that. Everything he says is bullshit. If you saw the Sean Ryan interview, I've never seen somebody go against everything they've said in the past so poorly. Hey, there are ways to do it as a politician. All the politicians know how. He sucks at it. He just absolutely is garbage. He is polling worse than Kamala. As of right now, he stands zero chance of getting the nomination, but he's trying like hell. And I think somebody tells him he has an honest to God shot, when even Democrats in other states are like, we don't want Newsom. We saw what happened to California. We're going to get into that revisionist history here shortly. So now, a couple reasons he wants to do this. Yes, there's the thing going on in Texas that he's trying to combat, allegedly. Right. That's the up top. But what this really is, they know they're losing the battle on deportation legally. They know that the Trump administration's legally within their rights to deport. And in California, ICE and Homeland Security are running massive operations to deport. Why do the Democrats hate this? We talked about this before. They hate this because it screws up voting for them. There are districts that could overwhelmingly be red if you get rid of all of these illegals before the next census. He's getting out ahead of this. Absolutely out ahead of this. And he wants to and what he wants to do is slice up red districts and merge them with a larger population of blue districts. And he's going to pick districts where the numbers haven't changed all that much in years and remash them together. Remember, he wants to discard the California voter-approved independent redistricting system, i.e., Facebook user, I can't see your name, but thank you. I have more chances than Newsom. You do. I'll vote for you before I vote for Newsom, and I don't even know who you are. But he's once again going to throw out the will of the people, what the people chose to do what's better for the party. Always better for the party. Isn't that right? Where is he? Come here. There he is. There's a reason party comes over everything else with him. 100%. So that's the next batshit crazy thing that's going on in California. But don't think it's all bad, because just as we were going to air today, and this made me, it's not often I get good news out of California, but a couple of things popped up where I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, there was this Gavin Newsom's press office. And if you look into this little dude, I forget his name, but it's, he's a super uber liberal that runs his press account. Tries to say, oh, California's a shithole because you got called a shithole in parentheses. And not parentheses, sorry, quotations. And then they showed the pictures. Now, everybody debunked these pictures of being old Shutterstock pictures. They debunked it. Did not happen. And Chad Bianco, who's running for governor, it's not polling great. Steve Hilton's still winning. Put these pictures up just in case everybody forgot what California is really like. And these are from this year. Tent cities, trash all over the place. Tent cities, combination of trash all over the place in tent cities. And it astounds me that they will try. I don't know why I'm still shocked. Maybe because I understand how the internet works, and I understand that now you can check things so quickly via the internet. But his press office putting out those pictures that were easily proven to be Shutterstock, they were easily old pictures, and trying to say, oh, this is how California is. No, that's how California was until you fuckers ran it into the ground. That's showing what it could be again, but that is not what it is. I live in Sacramento. I will tell you right now, unless I drive way away from the cities, it's not like that. Because even in some of the smaller towns that used to be middle-class, nice suburbia, there are tent cities and homeless problems and drug problems and burned out houses and yada, yada, yada. That is what they have created in this state. But they still try to gaslight you with the propaganda that it's just, California is just amazing. There's just a few problems. I don't know, the homeless problem, the amount of money we threw at the homeless problem that did absolutely nothing. The fact that the lands weren't tended to in the forest for years and years and years, et cetera, et cetera. There's a million things wrong with the state, and the whole country knows it. It's why, despite his claims on the Sean Ryan interview, there still is a mass exodus from California. The population's still going down. That's not hyperbole. It's been proven time and again. And instead of Newsom in that interview saying, yeah, we're trying to fix that. We know we have problems. We're trying to make adjustments for, and doing that political answer, he just said, no, it's not happening. There's not a mass exodus. People aren't going anywhere. No, your rich donors are staying because they live in protected areas, areas that you make sure stay safe, clean, and sane, and keep throwing money at you. And then the ones who are in low-income housing and on state assistance for both their Medicaid and their welfare and everything else, they're going to vote for you because they don't want to lose it. That's all you get left. The middle class is bouncing out of here at a high rate. I've said it before. I have one group of reasons, two individual reasons is a better way of saying it. That's the only reason that I'm here. And once those two reasons reach an age where I feel like I can move, I'm out of here. I've said before, Steve Hilton's winning right now for the Republicans. I don't think the Republicans can win the state. I know there are people who are saying, oh, you know, there's so many red areas in the state, but we don't have the population. We just don't have the population. The decision makers voting wise in this state are San Francisco Bay Area, Los Angeles, San Diego, which has fallen. It used to be a red area, but now it's fallen, and Santa Barbara. It's all blue. That's the population base, and Sacramento. It's all going. It's not going to turn around. Not anytime soon. Maybe 15, maybe 20 years, but you know what? I ain't got that much time. Most people don't have that much time, and they don't care enough about the state. They don't care that they can go from the snow to the ocean in 3 hours enough to suffer for that long. A lot of people are here because they're stuck here. They will go once they can, but they're absolutely stuck here. If Kamala runs for governor, then yeah, we have a GOP governor. You know what, Ordy? I wish I was as confident as you are in that, because I've seen the stupid shit that people in California do. I don't trust them to make good choices whatsoever. I just don't. So, as I said, that's, that was kind of a ha-ha that came out of California that I thought was funny. But the other thing that was amazing, and this happened just before I went on air, is they stopped the money. President Trump stopped the money going to the California high-speed rail. Stopped it, got rid of it, because the price tag went from $33 billion to $135 billion with no completion date. I want you to watch this video. This was posted by Transportation Secretary Duffy. And this is for the people that don't, this is a good history for people that don't understand how bad the California high-speed rail is. Never mind the fact that it was going from nowhere to nowhere. It was going from what? Barstow to Stockton to Fresno. I forget exactly where. Maybe it's a little bit further. But either way, to get anywhere important on said high-speed rail, you're still going to have to jump a bus and ride it for an hour and a half into a city. That's if traffic's really good. But I digress. Here's the video. Here's the video. There's the video.
The estimated costs that have shot up from $33 billion to $43 billion.
The project is estimated to cost $68 billion.
A new report shows California's high-speed rail project is costing taxpayers more than $3 million a day. The LA Times reports the budget has grown to $77 billion.
The cost for the project, though, has jumped to nearly $128 billion, much higher than the $33 billion voters approved in 2008.
The project is no longer a $33 billion project. The project's years and years behind. The project's wildly over budget. That doesn't mean it's a bad idea, but it is a bad idea not to be truthful about things.
Gavin Newsom is a bad idea, and so is California's high-speed rail boondoggle. It's now projected to cost $135 billion. For that price tag, we could give every single resident of LA and San Francisco almost 200 free flights. This is the definition of government incompetence and possibly corruption. That's why we're pulling the plug. No more federal funds for this high-speed train to nowhere. President Trump and I won't help Gavin Newsom waste your money.
So the money's gone, and it should be. It was an absolute waste of cash. I was corrected, fortunately, by Ordy, who said it went from Bakersfield to Merced, which, is there's such a draw in both cities, both Merced and Bakersfield. And it's not even high speed. It still shares the track with freight. That is 100% true as well. Yeah, the San Joaquin Amtrak probably is a lot quicker. It's just nobody wants to ride Amtrak. And that's, when all of this stuff, that's something I said too. If you just fixed Amtrak, none of this is necessary, because they did it on the East Coast. It's still, Amtrak's still a whole hot mess. The experience of it, I know they're spending a lot of money trying to fix it, even though it's a federal train system, even though it's not a federal train system, but our tax dollars essentially fund it because it runs at a loss every single year. But if they actually spent the money to fix the track, the experience of Amtrak, those two things, you wouldn't need projects like the high-speed rail, because the California Zephyr, that's the one I think that goes from San Francisco down to LA, is supposed to be gorgeous. Nobody is going to drive to Merced to get on a train to go to Bakersfield to ride a bus into LA when they can just fly you could honestly fly cheaper based on the rates that I've seen from Stockton to Vegas, jump on a flight from Vegas to LA and have it still be quicker. Buffoon of the Week is in the chat, reclaiming his crown. Thank you, sir. But that's the problem with all of this, is there is a better spending. If you want to improve the rail system, which I think it should be improved. I don't know how much government money I really want into it, but here we are. I think it should be improved. I think more people would take that option. Look, I have Amtrak here in Sacramento. It's 10 minutes from my house. There's hardly any parking around it. The station itself is nice, but it's surrounded by homeless, violence, and drugs. It's not a good experience. Then if you ride just regular old coach on Amtrak, the seats are shitty. It's dirty. It's smelly. They don't kick people off that they should kick off, but they check everybody else for tickets. It's just, it could be a better experience. The infrastructure's there. Why are we building something new instead of improving what we have, other than the fact that it gave jobs to people that the state of California wanted to funnel money to, and contracts and all of this stuff. And now we brought in some guys, he was like a European train manager. Like, we don't need to be doing that shit, paying him $1 million a year for a train that's over budget, that I'm never going to ride that train. If that train was finished right now, I have zero fucking reason to ride that train. For those who grew up in the Boston area, it's like having a high-speed train that goes from Dorchester to Worcester and doesn't stop in between. There's just no need for it whatsoever. But California just finds new and exciting ways, like the homeless crisis, to funnel money, launder it, if you want my opinion, essentially, to friends who are in charge of all these projects, to construction companies that are in charge of all these projects. We saw it with the Green Deal, Solyndra, the amount of money that went to Solyndra. Some of the same people involved in Solyndra were on the board for the high-speed rail. Millions of government dollars, billions wasted, gone. It's unbelievable. And the fact that I don't know, and I have, liberal friends out here, 100% Boston. I have liberal friends out here who would never ride that train. I have liberal friends out here who won't ride the train from Sacramento to San Francisco because it's a hot mess. Yeah, you could get on in San Francisco and go up to Seattle, but then, you're going to Seattle. Like I said, the Zephyr is a nice ride, I've heard. You have the beauty, you have the infrastructure. To be spending it elsewhere just to call it ours. Oh, it's the California high speed, which is different from Amtrak. That's federal. This is California. And see, we can do things bigger and better, blah, 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 blah. You have what? The 6th largest economy in the world, 7th largest economy in the world, and you still need government funding, and you still can't balance a fucking budget? No, you don't need any more federal tax dollars for your little toy train project. No, it doesn't happen. Doesn't need to happen. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it shows what everything is wrong with this state is summed up in that fucking project. So that's out of California. I need some other segments to go to after the break. Here's some good news. Do you know the producer price index in June only went up 0.01%? It was lower than all 50 forecasters in the Bloomberg survey, and it indicates a cooler inflation and potential federal policy shift towards tax cuts. Who would have known? It's almost like the administration said all of that was going to happen, and they said, oh, there's no way, price is going to go through the roof, and tariffs, and blah, 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 blah. And it's going in the right direction. There's also rumors that the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, is allegedly going to be fired by Trump. I hope so, because first of all, the Fed just needs to be dismantled completely. Absolutely dismantled Fed. It is ruining. I did a segment on it last week, I think. It just destroys everything that can be good in this country by people who have no interest in the country doing good. At the end of the day, that's what it has to do. But it goes to show how many of these leftist lunatics will ignore facts, will ignore data, will ignore everything just to put out a statement about why Trump's bad, evil, and wrong. and when he's not. I'm going to take a break here. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. We greatly appreciate it. We're hitting some more milestones with YouTube and everything else here shortly, so it's going to be huge for SHI. We appreciate it. Also, thank you to our friends over at KLRN for simulcasting us. We greatly appreciate it. Please like and subscribe. Everybody in the chat room right now, post your social media, post your X accounts, and then everybody else, make sure you're following each other. If you're not in the live chat, after the break, you need to be in the live chat. That's where you belong. That's where your home is. Don't you want to go to your home? Don't you want to go to your home? I was watching Happy Gilmore earlier. We'll be back right after.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
And welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHI Media Network. Going to move on and talk about Lady Mac Biden's right-hand man, her work husband. But first, I got to get caught up with the chat because the chat's important. It's important to me. Canada Heavy Hall says the budget will balance itself. Canada's previous leader. Yeah, how'd that work out? Cosmic Bod, the Boring Company and 1,000 Tesla taxis would be 1,000 times more efficient on the budget. I would agree with you. Buffoon of the Week said, and of course, that was only reported widely by the leftist press. Of course. Mission Ready Men, the Fed just needs to go away completely. Absolutely. Mike Pasqua, repeal the Federal Reserve Act. Yes, I'm with it. Cosmic Pod. So I want to go home, but my spaceship is down and the Alpha Centauri is 4.2 light years from here. We'll get you there eventually. We will. That's what we should be funding, is a ride for the Cosmic Bod. Orty says, in response to him, if you tried hitching a lift, hey, Lyft might actually go out there. I've seen some of the Lyft rides. You never know. I need the contact info for Mike and MRM and others. Canada U2. I'm not seeing everybody's social media being put in. Maybe I haven't gotten down to it in the chat, but I specifically said to put your X in the chat room. And you guys aren't listening. I'm going to start putting people on a timeout. That's really what it's going to go. I need an alarm for my MRM show. I keep missing it because notifications are whacked. Yeah. If you like and you subscribe, please make sure your notifications are on. I know they can be goofy on YouTube sometimes. It does happen. There's not much else I can do. But you have to have your notifications on to know when all the shows, not just Mission Ready Men, but Reaver of Common Sense, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, and the Lost Wanderer show on Sunday nights. You can get the notifications for all of them if you like and subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now I'm seeing people starting to be friends once in a while. You guys now will not go into timeout because you're sharing your social medias, and I appreciate that. Moving right along. So I don't know if you remember, I played on this show a couple months ago. The name Antony Bernal surfaced, and Antony Bernal was the First Lady Jill Biden's chief of staff, right-hand man. I did a little segment on him because Project Veritas did the David Hogg, and what was the other kid's name? Detarian Jones. The video where he essentially caused David Hogg to get bounced out, right? Of the DNC, that because he was saying everything that's wrong with the DNC, and he made the DNC look like assholes, and he's an asshole, so it's appropriate. But the name Bernal came up, and Detarian Jones said he's a Wizard of Oz type character. People avoided him. David Hogg said he ran everything, and everyone was afraid of him. This is Antony Bernal. So, as all the stuff with the Autopen starts to surface, and Biden, by the way, giving a random weird interview. I don't know what the strategy was when he called into, what was it, the Times, New York Times, essentially saying, hey, a lot of that stuff that was signed by the Autopen, I didn't approve. It went to somebody else and I didn't do it, and yada, 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 which is the weirdest defense and take when you're already being accused of not being in charge of a country and you're already being accused of cognitive decline, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, let's start throwing the people under the bus. And I'm sure Jill told him to do that. Throw these people under the bus. We won't need them next time. We have other people we have to put up on a pedestal and protect. One of those people is Antony Bernal, who's called in front of the House Oversight Committee to testify. Now, much like the good doctor did last week, there's a whole lot of the number 5 coming out of this guy's mouth.
Mr. Bernal, did you ever advise President Joe Biden to pardon his son, Hunter Biden?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
We'll stop right there for a second. Once again, you absolutely have the right under the Fifth. You are absolutely entitled to it under the Fifth. Now, usually, and originally, this just meant that you're not going to testify yourself against in court. Right? You have the right to protect yourself from self-incrimination. That's your right. You don't have to get on the stand and say, yes, I did this, or yes, I will testify to this, because if you make a mistake, you may admit something, and it's on the state, the prosecutors, to prove beyond an innocent, prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're guilty, right? It goes beyond reasonable suspicion. That is what the Fifth was meant for. It has, through the years, worked its way into people under oath being able to not answer questions to protect themselves from self-incrimination. That being said, as a casual observer, and by the way, I'm all for it. I am all for being able to protect yourself from self-incrimination. I'm all for the Fifth. I understand why. That being said, to a observer, to somebody who sits here and watches it casually, you look at somebody who is sworn in and is speaking to a House Oversight Committee, refusing to answer questions behind the Fifth. You have to ask the question, why? What could you possibly say? If you did nothing wrong whatsoever, what could you possibly say in this situation to get yourself in trouble? I will leave you to extrapolate from that what you will.
Thank you. We're going to go off the record real quick. Okay, we'll go back on the record. Mr. Bernal, was President Joe Biden fit to exercise the duties of the president?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Okay.
Let the record reflect that Mr. Bernal has invoked the Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Bernal, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bernal, did any unelected official or family member of President Joe Biden execute the duties of the presidency?
On the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer the question pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights under the Constitution.
That's the answer where he should have, with a clear conscience and without any reservation about that becoming problematic in his testimony, have been able to say the words no. On that question right there. All the other ones, fine. The Autopen or whatever. The cognitive decline. Hey, look, I'm not a doctor is what he should have said. I'm not a doctor. I don't know. He seemed okay to me. Whatever, fine. When you're asked specifically, and you were Jill Biden's right-hand man, you were in everything because we know Jill was in everything. Even the Hunter Biden thing. Okay, plead the fifth. Like, we all know it, but plead the fifth. It's cool. When you turn around and you can't answer the question of, was there anybody else executing the powers of the presidency? And you can't say no. This should be the biggest fucking scandal that's ever rocked this nation, because that answer should always be no. Unless the answer is, other than the times that he was incapacitated and the vice president had to step in, or a situation that is legal like that, no. But he couldn't say no. In other words, somebody else, never mind the self-incrimination thing, fine. I don't care about Antony Bernal on that level, but what I care about is the fact that there was not a clean no to that question. That means the answer is yes. Other people, unelected bureaucrats and appointees, were executing the powers of the office of the president. Think about how frightening that is. He should have said no and fucking lied. I mean, at least at that point, the American people could have a little bit of a breath. But this goes beyond that. He absolutely had zero ability to say the word no. And that's frightening. We've talked about on this show, BZ, Mission Ready Men, Jero, everyone at KLRN. We said, and other people did too, that there was a cabal of people running this nation and Joe Biden was not involved. And we were called conspiracy theorists. We were called lunatics. We were called everything under the sun. And if it was true that he was running everything, if it was true that he was running circles around people in meetings, if it was true when Tim Walz and the other governors went out to meet with him that he was sharper than he'd ever been, and I have zero hesitation with him running the country, then that answer should have been no. Somebody said in the chat room, I think it was Canada Heavy Haul, you got to read between the lines. Absolutely. You read between the lines in that question and that answer, and you get the true answer. And the true answer was there were other people running this nation, not advising, not carrying out the president's orders, not doing the work of government that they're instructed to do by the commander-in-chief. No. They were acting as the commander-in-chief. In other words, we had no real president. It was all a game. It was all a smoke and mirrors, which we knew. We fucking knew. This isn't a revelation to me per se. What this is, though, should be a revelation to all the people who said that we were crazy. And I'm not talking about the media people. I'm not talking about the commentators. I'm not talking about the parasite leftists who are going to repeat whatever the Democrats say. I'm talking about the average voter. The average person who maybe was believing the left on all of that. If you are not looking at that answer and you are not shocked, then you don't give a shit where this nation is. You only care about how you feel about things. You don't care about the rule of law. You don't care about our history. You don't care about the office of presidency. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't care about any of it. And you can't ever claim that you do. After this statement, if everybody on the left, all the pundits, all the media maggots, all of those people, if they don't say that's frightening because that answer should be a hard no, no questions asked, then they're all proven pieces of garbage who do not care. They can never hide behind the Constitution, because people like Scott Jennings and others who were on those daises with them need to turn around and say, yeah, but you didn't agree that the hard no from Bernal wasn't there, so that means other people were doing it, or he wouldn't be incriminating himself. So you don't care about the Constitution, you don't care about the rule of law, you don't care about the office of president, you don't care about any of that shit. You don't care about this country, you don't care about where this country goes. You just want to, I won't use that word because it'll probably get me killed off of some of these networks. You just want to pillage, and the word that usually comes before pillage, all of the good, all of the value, all of the money, all of the worth of this nation that's been built over the years under the system of government that we have, that we've made us this great nation, that has built us this great nation. You want to throw all that away and just rip all of that wealth, knowledge, history, and power that this country has, take away the freedoms, take away all the things that make it great, and then just consume it and destroy it. Because that's the only answer. If you don't agree with the fact that him pleading the fifth on that question means that somebody was running the government that was not the president. There's no what if, but maybe, yada, yada, yada. That does not exist. That was a black and white question that should have had a black and white answer. And it got the fifth. That's frightening. It's frightening. Even though we knew what's going on, seeing that answer scares the bejesus out of me. It really does. And it should scare all of us, because that means that these people will do whatever they can to glom onto power. They don't care about any of the processes that we have, and they will throw it out in order to obtain, retain, and abuse that power. And the fact that this is not the biggest scandal in the world right now, the fact that this isn't breaking news and they're not having pundits and daises for hours talking about it, revisiting, looking, going back and playing all these videos of the time that Biden had cognitive declines and he couldn't remember doing this and he didn't remember doing that. And he had to call into the New York Times and start setting up a smokescreen defense of, I did not personally review all the pardons issued by the Autopen. And in that specific interview, he was only talking about the pardons, not everything else that the Autopen signed. And anybody, like I said, anyone you know in your life, whoever cares to claim about this country and the Constitution, ask him that question. Hey, when Antony Bernal pled the fifth about somebody else running the government beside the president and using the powers of the presidency, and they said no, how'd that make you feel? And if they say, well, there are great situations, nope, done. All of your other arguments are invalid. Any argument that you have about the rule of law, the court system, immigration, blah, 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 it does not matter, because you don't believe in our process of government. You don't believe in our form of government. And you don't believe in our way of government. And you don't believe in this nation. You just believe what the left wants to defile it into. And therefore, I don't have any reason to converse with you. None whatsoever. This is not a debate. This is not a question. This is not a what if situation. His statement proved and is now in the record of the Oversight Committee in Congress and on record for the rest of the country and the rest of the world to see that we, if we do not do something about it, will allow an unelected person to assume the office of government outside of the situations that are built in the Constitution, lone survivor, yada, 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 to run this country. If you're in another country, how does that make you feel? Maybe you knew it was true behind closed doors. Maybe in all these secret meetings you knew it. But what if you didn't? Do you know who you were making agreements with under the Biden administration? Do you know what deals you were signing with the Biden administration? Sure, he read 40% of the words off a teleprompter and then stumbled through the rest. But how does that make you feel if you're another nation? How can you trust this country to do anything? They always talk about, oh, they can't trust Trump. They can't trust Trump. They can't trust Trump, blah, blah, blah. They can't trust anything on the left because the left proves that they know a president can be incapacitated mentally and they don't give a shit. They're going to keep pushing their platform forward no matter what the president feels about it. And yes, Sean, we all knew it. We did all know it, but we didn't have it in tape. We didn't have it on record, and now we do. And I'm infuriated. I'm pissed. I'm angry. I'm mad. I'm disappointed, and I'm sad. I'm actually saddened by this because it shows you how far we have fallen as a nation. Now, look, this isn't the first time we've had a mentally incapacitated president running the country. Woodrow Wilson had a stroke. His wife and Bernays, look that guy up, because if you want to know who Goebbels got all of his propaganda from, it was from Bernays. They ran the country. First progressive president before he had the stroke, and it was worse when his wife and Bernays were making the decisions. But now this is even worse than that because they didn't have the Autopen back then. They get the Autopen now. Who knows what the fuck gets signed? We have ideas, but are there treaties? Are there agreements? What was the Autopen? What decisions were made by the cabal and then told to Joe, who obviously was completely checked out mentally? Hey, this is what we're doing, and you approved it, remember? No? Yeah, no, look, you signed it. Oh, I guess I did. That's cool. Let's go. That's where it's at. I brought up, when I played the Project Veritas video with David Hogg and the other kid there, Jones, I brought up the video from Lord of the Rings with the king being whispered into and he was in a trance. And the king was still running. Don't get saucy with me, Bernays. That was such a great movie. It's good to be the king. And I brought that up and said this was Biden for the last 6 months of his presidency or longer. We don't know for sure. And now it's proven that video more real life. It's frightening. It's scary. And you should all be absolutely infuriated by it. Oh, I got to move on. I got to move on because I'm pissed, and I will sit here and rant for the next 9 minutes about it and just get repetitive and more angry. And then you guys would just be laughing because it's just me screaming at a microphone, and nobody needs that. Speaking of other bullshit things going on, NPR and PBS are pissed because their funding's getting cut. And there's so many weird defense of this. My favorite is Amy Klobuchar saying, what about national disasters? People won't be able to find out information in national disaster. I don't remember PBS and NPR running the emergency alert system, which is how you get information in a disaster. And she said, well, some people, they just don't get that out where they live. Look, folks, people in their 80s stream TV shows now. They can get PBS if it's on there. PBS, look, if PBS has a good business model, they won't go away. Same thing with NPR. And if they do, then they shouldn't exist anyways. What other businesses do we prop up like that? Yeah, I know there's a lot of other businesses that do that. There shouldn't be, and we should be eliminating them slowly. Amtrak could be on that cutting board, in my opinion. But NPR and PBS have another issue. They're an absolute propaganda machine for the left. So not only are the taxpayers funding it, but they absolutely are playing for one team. Now, if they were straight down the middle, if they absolutely just reported news, kind of like C-SPAN did, right? They'd say, I get it. Kids love Elmo and it's cute. And maybe we can give them a better tax break or something. I don't know. But yeah, I can see why you'd want to run. But that's not the case. And it kind of goes back to my whole point with Bernal. Look at this. NPR Fresh Air guests are 100% liberal. 36 liberal guests, 0 conservative guests from the Media Research Center. But they're just a propaganda arm for the Democrats, for older people. That's all it is. It's propaganda for old people and infants, I guess. I don't know how many infants are actually watching any of these shows or listening to NPR, but it's the elderly. It's the elderly vote that this affects. And when you just repeat the same thing over and over and over and over again, then people who want to sit there and watch it over, like those who watch MSNBC, but they're not publicly funded. Those who watch CNN, they're not publicly funded. I can hate them all I want, but that doesn't mean that they can't exist and I don't have to like it. Oh, didn't you hear? I'm almost a Nazi now. Apparently. But this is the person who went in front of Congress, is on CNN, who's crying how PBS and NPR, and she runs NPR, are not at all biased. And she doesn't know where that theory comes from. I'm going to read some of Catherine Marr's posts. The best part of AZGO TV is my Biden grandpa hat. White supremacy is complicity. If you're white, today is the day to start the conversation in your community. Today is like every single day is yet another day to follow more Black women. We are all people of color on this website. I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive, but it's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founded on treating people's ancestors and as private property. And it goes on and on and on. I don't know how you can make the defense that you're not. Cosmic Bod. You know what? For those of you listening to podcast, you're going to have to watch the replay on the show to find out what Cosmic Bod said. That's going to be the secret post of the night right there, the secret chat message. I'm not sharing it to them. They have to go back and watch it, but Cosmic Bod, that was fan-freaking-tastic, sir. But you get my point. My point is she's absolutely biased, which if NPR is paying their own way, if PBS paying their own way, I don't have to like what you're putting on the air, but you have the right to put whatever you want in the air. It's America. I brought this up with Elon a couple weeks ago when I was talking about he has the right to start a party whether we like it or not, and we should support that right even if we don't agree with the party or what he's doing. This is the same sort of thing. Hey, if you want to be a private business, go for it. Go nuts. But if you're going to get taxpayer dollars, you have to play it down the middle. You can't play one side against the other. You don't have the right to opinion. You want to do a straight news show or something like that, like C-SPAN does? Cool. No questions asked. Fine. Then maybe we can start talking about how we can help the children programming for that. I'll have the conversation, even if I'm not 100% for it, but I'll at least be willing to listen to you at that point. But you are not, and you can't claim to be when there are mountains and mountains of evidence, video, audio recordings that show that you are 100% biased. Look, I say it all the time. I have my biases. I'm a commentator. Okay. I'm not a news show. I've occasionally read news as it's happened on the air, but I am a commentator. We're all pundits in our way. We're all commentators, opinion guys, gals. We own this. We know it. We say it. It's not anything we're shy about. They don't. They will absolutely lie to the faces of the elderly and the uninformed who turn around and say, well, they're probably not biased because they're getting federal funding and, funded by viewers like you. So that funding's getting cut. The train to nowhere is getting cut. We're saving some good money and we're saving it in all the right places. And I think it's just fan-fucking-tastic, if I'm completely honest with you. I voted for it. I'm here for it. And the more cuts we have like that, the better off we'll be. Folks, that is it. It was an hour and went quick. I appreciate you being here. Please check out all the great shows on SHR Media every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. You have the Reaver of Common Sense with my good friend, Jersey Joe. Tuesday and Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. Mission Ready Men with Big E. You got to check out that show. It's fantastic. Tuesday and Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific. 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have BZ's Berserk, Bobcat Saloon. He posted he'll be back tomorrow night. He'll be large and in charge. And then, of course, me, Monday And Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. And then Sunday night, if you want to be educated, if you want to be informed, right here in SHR Media, the Cosmic Bard, the Lost Wanderer, whatever you want to call him, the alien from our good friends over at KLRN, who are awesome and you need to check out as well. We'll be here on Sunday nights. And Buffoon of the Week. Go over, check them out, go to the website, take their little test. I have fun with their little test. I'll be the first one to admit it. Thank you so much. I will be back. You can follow me at X, number 2 Against Tyranny. I totally forgot to say that. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter, whatever they call it now, X. I meant Twitch, not Twitter. You can like and subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Know when we're on the air. Jump in the chat and enjoy. Canada Heavy Haul is still number 500, sir. Thank you so much, number 500. My friends, will see you Monday. Have a great rest.